Hi everybody, thank you to be there. Are you well? Is it okay? Yeah? Okay. So, let me introduce myself. So my name is Frédéric Saint-Fort, so you can maybe recognize my French accent. So I live in southeast of France. I'm technical sales specialist in manufacturing, but I have also competencies in architecture, engineering, and constructions. I spent, I would say, 4 years in AC team, and now the rest in manufacturing, and I'm at Autodesk since 10 years now. So I will be your captain, as you can see, for 1 hour of flying over the industry of the future and the solutions we can propose you to address this. The agenda. First of all, I would like to explain you what is the industry of the future. What does it mean? Maybe some of you know, some of you don't know. The idea is just to set a little bit what it is. Then I will explain you how we manage with Autodesk solutions the creation of a digital twin of a factory. Okay? So we will talk about BIM, we will talk about production lines, we will talk how to deal with both in a single mockup. Then, the idea is to cover the different use cases you could have with a digital mockup. So, a lot of people say, yeah, it's nice to have a digital mockup, but what can we do with that? What is the benefit? So we will go through the ROI, return of investment, we can get if you create a digital mockup of a factory. This presentation is interactive, so I will use, you will see that I will click on the presentation to go through this, because the idea of this third part is to talk about the different group you can have in a factory. So you will see, we will talk about production, works, facility management, etc. and address the different use cases. And then conclusion. So is it okay for you? The menu sounds good? Okay. So what is the factory of the future, industry of the future, or industry 4.0 if you are German? Or, okay. So who in this room has some knowledge about that? Okay, so I can count four people. So it's good idea to go through this. So the industry of the future, you know, is the fourth revolution in terms of how to manage, how to produce things. So maybe you know that the first one is the steam machine. The second one, the electricity, the electric. The third one, the robotic, and now we are in the fourth. So there are a lot of buzz around that. In France, we have, for instance, every year a big event at Paris named Industry Paris, or etc. There are thousands of people in one place just sharing knowledge about the industry of the future. And if you look at the different books, you can see that kind of diagram. This diagram is just a summary of what is the industry of the future. It's not an Autodesk. It was not done by Autodesk, this diagram, but it was created by an expert in France, an expert in industry of the future. So let me explain you, and you will see it's not so complex. So what you can see here, you have to read this diagram from the center to the external, okay? So if I start from the center, here you can see my mouse. Here you have the past. Here you have the present. And here you have the future. Then you can see piece of cakes. So you have the first one is a product design. The second one is monitoring and control. Third one, manufacturing. Fourth, service integration, maintenance, and work organization. There is also a sixth, transversal it's the cloud computing, big data. It's not in this diagram, but it exists. So it means that if I look at the first one, product design and process, in the past, people use, or in the past, or sometimes it's current now, but I would say the past is that people use CAD, like AutoCAD, to create layouts. The present is now using PLM and take care about CFAO. And the future means that create a digital twin of a factory, a digital mock-up of the factory. Do you understand? Is it clear? Okay. What is interesting is that create a digital mock-up is the first point. Why? Why? Because if you have a digital mock-up, it helps you to better monitor your factory. It helps you also to better deal with operations. It also helps you to better organize your works. That's why it's ranked at the first pillar of the industry of the future. Interesting. And we will see what is also interesting is that you can much easily deploy a digital mockup than deploy MES or other things of the industry of the future. It takes much more time for the rest, but create a digital mockup of a factory, you will see that it's easy, you have the investment, it's controlled, and you have quick wins for each group that can use this mockup. Interesting? Have you any questions regarding that? Is it clear? Yeah, it's interactive, and don't hesitate. If you have a question, you can ask right now, okay? So let's see now how we deal with that. If everybody in this room is agreed that, okay, create a digital mockup of a factory is interesting, it's the first step of the industry of the future, how to do that? Autodesk is maybe the only one software editor that can propose to take care of the building, to take care of the production line. That's why it's interesting what we will propose you, what we propose to our customer. Why? Because now, talking about a factory means talking about a building. It's a building, basically. And inside you have a production line, or many production lines. And the building, now, if you talk about a digital mock-up of a building, you have to think about the building information modeling. It's now, I would say, mandatory. You cannot avoid it. Why does it mean? So maybe some of you follow AC sessions or some stuff like that, or heard the main session about building information modeling. It means basically that, for instance, if you look at this room, if you have a BIM model of this room, each wall is a 3D model. And on this 3D model, you have an information or multi-informations like the thickness, the height, the material, if there are many materials, the paint, the color, etc. So it means building information modeling means a 3D model with information inside. It's like a new revolution in the building. It's like the PLM for mechanical people, but here for the building. That's why you cannot avoid it if you think about a digital factory. So I have a short example. So you saw this example, but I would like also to be interactive with you. So here is a BIM model, okay? The solution, I will also talk about the products, the solution. The solution today that Autodesk really propose to take care with the BIM is Revit. You can hear a lot about Revit. Revit is a platform, so you can take care about the architecture, you can take care about the structure, the piping, etc. So you have here an example, a very basic example. It's not a big factory of an element. If I click on an element, I have the information here, so it's a basic wall, and you have also all information relative to this wall. So for instance, the area, the volume, the material, etc. You can also have the thermal capacity, etc. That is the BIM. Okay? Let's continue my presentation. A factory is a building, but also a production line. How to digitize a production line? How to put a model inside this building? You have two kinds of projects, in fact. We name the first one the greenfield project. Greenfield means it's a new project from scratch. So you design a new production line, or you have a brownfield project. Brownfield means that you have a current factory that you want to revamp. You want to remove machinery and put in place new production line, okay, or do an extension, a warehouse, I don't know, of the factory. It's clearly, for instance, I share with you some experience I have in France. We have much more brownfield projects in France than greenfield. Makes sense. The factories are there, and they want to enhance, to improve the flexibility, etc. of factories. That's why the need is much more to digitize current factories than to create new factories. Maybe it's different in your country, I don't know. It's an example. The idea of this presentation is also to give you some tricks how we can combine BIM and the production line. This is an example. Here, you can recognize my building. It's a Revit building, so our well-known solution in BIM, worldwide solution. What do we need to integrate the production line? If it's a greenfield project, for instance, we need the floor plan, the floor layout of the building, I mean. And we have this capacity to integrate this floor layout from Revit, going through the DWG file that a lot of people know, the AutoCAD file. We use now, when we propose a solution to digitize a factory, we propose, in fact, two collections. You know, we talk about AC collection, and we talk about product design and manufacturing collection. So to deal with the building, for sure you need the AC collection. To deal with the production line, we need the PDMC collection. Here we are inside Inventor, the PDMC collection. So we take care about the production line. So now, what propose Autodesk in terms of solution? We propose first a library of components. That's really interesting because if you start from scratch, you need machine models, you need fence models, you need rack models, etc. So where to find that? Do we have to start from scratch? No. Autodesk proposes a library of a lot of components that you can basically use, and those components are, you can change the parameters. That's really interesting. That's the first possibility we have to put in place components. The second one, of course, is to deal with your CAD you can get from a machine reseller. So inside the industrial solution, we have the capacity to integrate the native CAD models. So it means that if you have a SolidWorks machine, we can read it, we can import it, simplify it, and integrate it inside the library. And the third capability is also to deal with point clouds, and I will explain that after. So we have three capabilities to have a model of a current machine or a CAD model of the machine and integrate it inside the BIM building. So here on this video, you can see that we can easily drag and drop the machine. We can easily position the machine according to the floor, and then have a precise positioning of each machine. So here you have I would say, workflow that allows you to deal with BIM Revit models inside the product and design collection of Autodesk. So some tips and tricks. If you want to deploy this solution, or if you are interested about that, the idea is to, as you can see, to create as much as possible regions. So it means that if you have an area of production line, you can create this area, define this area in order to divide your factory in many areas needed. It will help in terms of fluidity, software, and capacity. So when it's done, as I mentioned, you have two collections, AC collection and manufacturing, or design and manufacturing collection. Inside both collections, you have one tool, common tool, that I'm using here. The name is Navisworks. This tool is for project review. So the idea of this tool is to import all the data in the same place. So it means I imported the building, and I will import each region of production lines in order to have one global mockup that contains the geometry and also the informations. And with this model, I will be able to simulate a lot of use cases. So this tool is really efficient because you can import a lot of data in one place. So here it's a simple example, but I will open another mockup. You will see that inside this tool you can import a town if you want. It's really fluent, and you cannot I would say if you want to see Navisworks slowly, it's hard. You have to import a lot of information. And when you create a mockup, of course, you have to deal with changes. Means that what happened if the architect changed the building, had a wall or changed the size of the wall, okay? So this is exactly what I'm doing. You need to be able to update this model everywhere. So inside the tool used to create the production line, and also inside the project review tool. So this is exactly what I'm doing here. So I added walls in my mockup, and then using the floor drawing, I can synchronize into my production line tool, and then do the changes, the change needed. So you can see that the both collection, I would say, or the both solution, the industrial solution and the architecture solution, can work together. And I accelerate a bit just to show you the final result. Okay? And then with that, you can export, you can create all the drawings needed. So, for instance, I need a drawing of my machinery plus my building. I can do that easily. So, because the floor drawing is inside, so I can easily create a view and not import, but integrate the floor plane and produce the drawing needed. Okay, so I stop here and just show you a mockup. So here it's a mockup of 4 factories. You can recognize here my small factory, but there are other factories plus plus infrastructures. And just to show you a bit inside this mockup, so here it's the tool Navisworks, huh? So the project review tool. As you can see, it works like layers. You can import all layers here, and you can also import meshes if you want. Here, you have machine meshed, existing machine. You have also inside, point clouds. You have a structure, you have piping, you have a lot of things inside. So finally, the mockup, the global mockup, can be easily managed on a small computer like mine, and you can navigate. You can do measurements, you can do a lot of simulation, I would say, and I will talk about that after. But look, it's really fluent. It's not a video, it's in live. So here you have, it's me, you can recognize me. And, and here you have what I did. So, as I shown to you, we are able to create a mockup, okay? A global mockup, including building, production line, point clouds, meshes, etc., all in the same place with geometry and information. Everybody agree about that? What to do with that now? Okay. What is the interesting on that? I have to talk a bit about reality, because as I said, for instance, in France, we have 80% of projects around brownfield and not greenfield. Deal with point clouds is today, I would say, mandatory. You have a huge return of investment by using this technology, because you can capture an existing factory in less than 1 day, I would say, depend on the surface. But we did some pilot projects with customers, and in 1 day we catch a huge part of the factory. You have to take in account 4 minutes per shooting, depending on your laser scan, the quality, etc., the color, but 4 minutes with a Faro laser scan to have full in color. So it means I scan, and then I move, because you have to move in some points every 5 meters, for instance. So you have to take in account 10, 15 minutes between two scans. So you can count in 8 hours, it's a lot of scans, and finally it can cover a huge surface of a factory. Here you can see the tool that we have in both collection, AC and manufacturing collection, that allows you to bring all those scans in one place. You need that, in fact. And with this tool, that, as you can see, can do that automatically, that's fine, you can prepare the scans. You can navigate, for sure, but you can prepare, you can remove machines, you can isolate walls, pipings, etc., in order to import it inside the dedicated tool. When I say the dedicated tool, means inside Revit for the building, if you need to recreate a 3D model of the building, or inside Inventor, if you need to deal with positioning some machines. Who is familiar with recap in this room? Okay, not a lot, huh? So it's interesting. It's important for you to get all the explanations. The precision of a laser scan is close to 1 millimeter. It depends the distance of the shoot. Or if you are in a factory, so the shoot is less than, I would say, 30, 50 meters, so the precision is 1 millimeter. So it's really interesting. And also to navigate, as you can see, because you can go through different whole sphere. You can see is a location of the scan. So you can go through each in order to have a look on your shoot. Well, we have many projects about creating a mock-up of an existing factory. The first step of that is laser scanning, okay? The second one is recreate the things, the model, if you don't have the model. So recreate the building with Revit, but recreate the machinery if you don't have the model. If you don't find the machine inside the library we proposed, if you don't have the CAD model, if you have nothing, you have to recreate it. And there are many possibilities to do that. The first one, you can directly isolate the machine as a point cloud, import it inside the CAD tool inventor in order to recreate the volumes, and deal with what we name the level of detail. It means that you have to create a detail of the machine. So a good detail or a lack of detail, depends your need. I will talk about that after. So you import the point cloud and you design around. You can use some planes or points, etc. The second way to do that could be to create a mesh. To create a mesh, you can get a mesh directly from eventually the tool used by the laser scan. For instance, Faro that proposed point sense. Finally, it's a little bit a competitor of Recap. Propose also the capacity to create directly the mesh. That is a good mesh also. So you can import the mesh with Fusion that is also inside the product and design collection, and use this to create the machine, because the mesh is really interesting. You can cut the mesh, you can create some sketches with the mesh. So it could be interesting to accelerate the redesign of the 3D model of the machine. So it's explained here. So you isolate a machine, and you can directly import it to recreate the machine. I accelerate a bit. So here you have a mesh that comes from a laser scan. And using Fusion, you can directly cut the mesh, create some sketches in order to recreate geometry. So maybe you have the question, hey, Fred, it's interesting, but do you have a solution, an automatic solution to recreate this as a 3D model? The answer is no. It's the Graal, I would say. Everybody wants to have that, but today it don't exist. But the people are working on it hardly, because they know that if one day it's possible, it will be really interesting. It exists for pipings, for instance. There are tools that recognize a pipe and can deal with specification in order to repositioning some pipings. But for geometry, I would say that is not a pipe or a structure. It's really hard. But they are working on it. But today, it don't exist a solution. That's why I propose you a manual solution. So I talk a lot about tools, but let's now recap a bit what I mentioned. You have to remember that I talk about two collections, the AEC collection and the products and design and manufacturing collections. Both together, you have two products important, Revit for the building, for the BIM side, and Inventor for the production line. And inside the two collections, you have two products, the same product, Navisworks, that I use to show you my global mockup, etc., and Recap to deal with point clouds. Is that clear? Easy. So in this graphic, you have a summary of that. So if you start from a point clouds, you use Recap to concatenate the laser scans. Then with that, you can recreate the mockup of the building inside Revit. So it means the structure, the architectural things, pipings, etc. And in parallel, you use the point clouds to recreate the machinery with a level of detail. And then you can do an assembly of both with Navisworks in order to simulate some use cases. So means project review, navigate, clash detective, etc. Is that clear? Okay, perfect. It's now time to discuss about the tricky thing, use cases and return of investment. What is that? What is that? It is a digital twin of a factory. But as you can see, you have to, if you are really close to the picture, it's hard to see it. You have to be close to the door to recognize that it's a factory. You can recognize here a robot, some piping, structures, etc. In fact, a digital mockup, it's like this picture. At first, it's pixelated. It means that you don't have every details of your machine or your building. It's impossible because it costs, in fact. You have to invest to create the mockup. So the idea is not to decide to have a full mockup at the first time. The idea is to first deal with a global view of the mockup, and then, depending on the team that need, for instance, if you have a service in production that need to refine the mockup in order to have a much more payback, you can do this. And you will progressively refine the image, like I'm doing now, in order, at the end, to have a clear, complete mockup of your factory. Do you understand what I mean? I mean that, in fact, it's a work in progress. It's always work in progress to obtain a digital twin of a factory. It's not one shot. And why also? Because it's a factory mockup lives. In fact, there are some changes occurring daily or weekly or etc. So it's not, you don't have to do it one time and that's finished. You have to maintain it, you have to recreate it, etc. So think about this. How to get, so when I discuss with customers, I often do workshops or discovery meetings, etc. Around the table, people always agree that, yes, it's a nice idea to have it. Yeah, you're right. We need to do that. We need to, it's a first step in the industry of the future. Great. How does it cost? Okay, let's talk about cost or investment and return of investment. In fact, we are used to speak about cost or price per square meter because the industrials are square meters, I would say. So they need to know the price per square meter to digitize a factory. Means building and production line and the pipings, electrics, etc. So in this part of my presentation, the idea is to explain you for different services how you can get a payback in dollar or euro per square meter that, in fact, go much more high than the investment you can do to create the mockup. So it's the interactive part of my presentation. So think about those services that could be interested about the mockup. Let's talk about the production. Here you have the use cases. The much more common use case we have is to simulate implantation scenarios. How we deal with that? If you have a digital mockup, as I shown to you, you can do global review. You can move the objects. You can play with that. You can remove a machine, import a new machine, put in place, and that's it. And test and do some screenshots, etc. Here you have a table that summarizes the gain and the effort and also the impact for each use case. What does it mean? It means that the effort to get some scenario, to create some scenarios, it's easy. as I said. If you have the digital mockup, you can easily play with it. And the gain is maximum. So here you have a huge payback by using the digital mockup. The benefits, we can talk about saving time, increasing the collaboration, increasing also how the capacity you have to describe your project. And also because Autodesk proposes not only to go from 2D to 3D, as I mentioned, to AutoCAD to a 3D mockup, but also a 3D plus analytic means that you can do clash detective, you can anticipate errors, etc. That's why you have a huge benefits. Let's come back to other use cases. Manage people is also a huge use case. You need to know the number of people that works per services, per project, etc. You need to know the job characteristics. So it means that you can put inside the mockup a lot of informations and allow people to have an access to those informations. Means that the effort is medium because you have to maintain those informations, but the gain is maximum because you can faster have an access to those informations. The surfaces, managed surfaces is also a use case really interesting because in a factory you have a lot of surfaces to maintain, also you have some taxes to pay regarding the surfaces you have, etc. Have an exact idea of the surfaces used per services is something that really gives you a benefit. The effort is easy, but the gain is medium because, yes, it's less benefit than deal with scenarios, but you have a benefit. Also, we can talk about industrial systems. Industrial system means that if you have a mock-up, you can put in place all the pipings if you want. The interesting things on that is that you know exactly this pipe is, I would say, water or gas or I don't know. And if you put a machine here, you can connect on this pipe and supply the machine. That's nice. Nevertheless, if you want to have all the pipings inside your mockup, it's a big effort because you have to modelize those pipings. That's why in this table, you can see that the effort is hard to get this because sometimes the pipes are underground or you don't have a real access to those pipes. But the gain is maximum. Okay, let's talk about other services, maintenance. For instance, maintenance, have a digital mockup of a factory will help you to do some virtual trainings. Okay, so you can do virtual reality. The effort is easy because you can directly transfer to a system with a helmet. We have partners. The partners that I often deal with is TechViz. TechViz proposes a solution that directly use Navisworks to extract it on a helmet. Okay, so, and you can play scenarios. And also play scenarios around ergonomic. You can also, for the maintenance, optimize the contracts. It's a really interesting use case because we have customers that pay the mockup with that. Why? You have contracts of maintaining the surface, cleaning the windows, etc. It costs. If you don't really know the surfaces that they have to clean, the contract is not really good. With that, with the digital mockup, you can clearly give the exact surfaces that they have to clean and adjust it. It means that you can get a payback on that. Another thing that we can talk about is the construction deconstruction. It's a service, the works service, that often need to simulate deconstruction. I have an example. In France, we are working with a customer that has a huge site, and this site is old. And they need to destroy some buildings in order to do new buildings. But for that, they need, if you destroy your building, you need to know the weight of steel you have to remove, the weight of concrete you have to, or the volume of concrete you have to remove, and then you have to pay a service for that. So with a digital mock-up of your factory, you can extract those informations and say, okay, I will have 10,000 kilograms of steel, and this is part of what you have to remove, and that's it. You can also simulate the different phases, and that's really important. For example, in France also, because I remember a discussion with a customer that, in fact, had an issue. They did a brownfield project, an extension of a factory. It's a warehouse, and they do the biggest tire in the world for the big trucks, carrier trucks. So they did the project, but they missed to simulate how you can transfer this big tire into the warehouse, and they discovered that, in fact, the roof was not enough high. So with the digital mock-up, you can really see the problem. Let's talk a bit. I will not go to everything, but if you are interested about this presentation, I think you will be able to download it from the AU site. Nevertheless, you can directly contact me. Don't hesitate. I can deliver you this presentation. It's not a problem. Facility management, it's a huge part. A lot of customers can pay all the mock-up just by getting some ROI on facility management. Thank you. Why? If you think about the construction costs, it's really small regarding the operation and maintenance cost of a building during 20, 25 years. I give you an example. It's just an idea, because I don't think it's really this price. But in operation, as an example, the cost could be, I would say, 3 euros, it's in euro, per square meter every year. If you invest to create a mock-up to better manage maintenance, security, exploitation, etc., so reduce this cost, the cost of a mock-up could be eventually 10 euros per square meter to obtain the building and maybe a minimum level of detail of the production line. So you understand that, in fact, really faster, just with that, on facility management, you have a payback by creating a mock-up. So yeah, security, maintenance. So for instance, with a mock-up, there are a lot of things that we can cover. I'm often use this presentation to discuss with my customer, because sometimes there are use cases that they are interested in or not, but it's just to give you an idea. Technical information, to have an access of technical information is really important for maintenance service. To know the maintenance you have to do on the machine, to geolocalize a machine, etc., etc. Also exploitation, etc. You can, as I said, better manage taxes, contracts optimization, etc. Just talk a bit about ergonomic, because sometimes I have around the table ergonomic people that are interested about digital mockup for sure, because the benefit is instantaneous. You can predict if people will be injured or not on a daily job. For instance, so you have the mockup. I mentioned TechViz, for instance, it's a partner of Autodesk that proposed directly to have the mockup, so to be with the helmet on your factory, but also they propose to do ergonomic analysis. So you have to respect a norm. It's a nioche or rule à norme. They put sensors on the operator, and the guy do some movements, and they can in real time give you an idea of the right respect of the norm. For instance, this is forbidden because you will break your. It's not good for your body. So what I mean around that is that create a digital mock-up of a factory to do a first step to the industry of the future means that you have to invest. That's a fact. But much more you can involve services around the table to see the benefit of a mock-up, much more you will be able to get a quick wins around the mock-up and refine the mock-up, you know? Remember the image. You have a lot of pixels, and you can progressively refine. And you have a payback by refining here. You can pay more here, and you refine, and you have payback, etc., etc. And then you will clearly use the mockup to optimize your factory. Inside this presentation, I put some global ROI just to summarize a bit. The much more ROI on the much relevant ROI that give you quick wins. So as I mentioned, validate modification, better communicate, reuse 3D data you have, etc. That's the most challenge people facing. The solution, I showed you the mockup, and the KPI are error reduction, time management, and budget. I give you some also ideas of benefits. We talk a lot about reduction of time people do to things, but also to give you an idea, by having a 3D mockup, you can reduce the errors that cost a lot. For instance, if you put in place a machine, and in fact, you may say that there is a pillar, structural pillar, that's an issue, and that costs a lot. So around the world, we deal with a lot of projects as Autodesk, or we are helping our customer to go to 3D, I would say, or to create a digital mockup. As you can see, people on this table, I cannot mention customer, but if we talk about customer A, B, C, D, the people that now use the digital factory can really better manage the budget of a factory. So just to summarize a bit, because now it's time to do a final check. Remember, this is the graphic that explains the industry of the future. Remember that the first, or the basement, or the first point that the expert on this topic mention is factory digitalization. This helps to first put your feet in this topic with a not so expensive way. It's doable. It's not difficult to deploy or to create. The solution that we propose are really easy to implement, easy to do, I would say, a pilot project if you want, and just to see that it's doable. And the benefit you can have is huge to start now, because the industry of the future should start now. That's it. Thank you very much. If you don't hesitate, if you want much more information, to contact me. I have also a YouTube channel, so there are some videos inside, so you can go on it, subscribe on it if you want, and have a look. There are some French videos or English videos, and don't hesitate. If you have questions, you can ask questions now also. Yeah, one question. Yeah. Which one do you want?
Many ROI items is on the slide.
Mm-hmm.
My question is why all ROI item is in inverse proportion to square meter? I mean, I think for example, factory cost is not only random of monthly
Yeah. You know, why I put it ROI as or price per square meter? Because you have to compare some things, in fact. If you create a mock-up, basically, the customers ask a price per square meter. So you have to compare that price with the payback you can get. So you can calculate it. They do it. They do it. It's hard to get it because when I ask to my customers, okay, please give me your ROI analysis, sometimes it's hard because they don't want to share it. They want to know the price, but they don't share it. But if you can have it, they are able to give you as a price per square meter. They do this. No problem. The idea is just to compare. But for instance, in facility management, they can calculate it. And as I said, the price you get here is sometimes, or the addition of all those prices is really higher than the investment. But I don't have the real prices because first, if a customer talks to me about that, I cannot share it. And second, sometimes they don't share. So it's not easy. Other questions? No? So, thank you.